I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Tell these salty motherfuckers to tell the truth. Tell politicians to give up the rooms. Tell silent voters to stand up to the booth.
God, it's me. Can you hear my plea? Feeling like I'm lost in this world, can't you see? Demons creeping in, trying to take control of me. But I'm just trying to find the light, trying to break free. I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. But why you keep forgetting me? What did I do? Trying to have a convo, but you starting to preach. Feeling like I'm on a leash. Can't find no peace, find no peace. Living in hell, can't you hear my plea? I'm suffocating, can't you see? Why you let these false prophets roam free? While the will run suffer, can't you see? I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Why you keep targeting me? What did I do? Trying to have a convo, but you starting to preach. Feel like I'm on a leash, can't find no peace.
Hardest battles, strongest soldiers, greatest burden, broadest shoulders, pushing up just like these boulders. This conflict like it's water, so this mercy, take my chalice, seeking grace through all this malice. All of these salty motherfuckers to give up.
Politics and sinners, they all the same. Got me stuck in this endless game. But I won't give up, won't play the role. Gotta do what's best for my soul. I'm not perfect, God, neither are you. Tell these salty motherfuckers to tell the truth. Tell these politicians to give up the room. Tell silent voters to stand up to the booth. Living wild but truthfully free. God keep on watching over me. Take my pleas and keep the receipts. I just want all of humanity to be free. And clean the seas and stop the greed. I want to see clean skies and all innocence roam free. This obsession with misinformation.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. This morning, you know, we always start independent music, and I got Larry Luciano, Dear Black Man.
I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation.
Look, I know we share the same skin. Probably even look alike a little bit. But the same way I was born guilty looking, you was too. I would get mistreated by other races the same way you do. So why should we mistreat each other? Dear black man, we supposed to be brothers. No, I don't wanna fight, don't wanna mug you. Say being us is a struggle, cause every other race just hate to love you. Man, look at me and you, we the same color. And ain't supposed to love you, our lives ain't too different. We live each other's. I mean, damn bro, my mother know your mother. See, I respect your hustle, cause just to be seen, you gotta work double. And just to pay your rent, you working double. Can a black man make a huddle? How long it's gonna take for us to discover that united, we can cause some trouble? And it's hard to recover from mistakes, cause some you can't cover. Why suffer at the hands of your brother? Dear black man. Hey, now raise your hand if you a black man. They don't understand the black man. Look, now raise your hand if you a black man. Now take a stand if you a black man. Take a chance if you a black man. Look, dear black man, no, I don't wanna hate you. We not in competition, don't wanna race you. So why are we so hateful? These black on black crimes are so distasteful. I know you gotta be tough, that's how life made you. But I don't want no smoke, I'd rather shake your and crack some jokes, but it's friendly if we do so. Especially if it's a man that you don't know. That Willie Lynch syndrome ain't let us go. And I know that we all men, we gon' agree and disagree again and again. But you can speak, bro, we ain't gotta be friends. Now you ain't gotta pretend, but in the end we got melanin skin. And I don't wanna see you dead or in the pen. Dear black man. Now raise your hand if you a black man. Cause they don't understand the black man. Yeah. Damn. Now take a stand if you a black man. Yeah. Yeah. Take a chance if you a black man. Hold up your hands if you a black man. Look. I don't want no problems with you, brother. I low-key just wanna love you.
That was Dear Black Man. Larry, I think his name is Larry Luciano. I got something that I really, I know Memorial Day just passed, and I really want to talk about how Memorial Day started, because I don't feel like a lot of people honestly know how Memorial Day started or even like the background to it. So I want to get into that, is what they don't teach you about Memorial Day.
One where the first Memorial Day is not born from official decrees, but from the heart of freedmen in a war-torn city. This tale lost to the history books and buried beneath the soil of Charleston, South Carolina. Join me as we talk about the forgotten story of the first Memorial Day. And if you like stories like this, you can find more stories like this at OneMicHistory.com. Also, you can support the YouTube channel, and I have a new channel, One Mic 2. Please subscribe. But without further ado, let's get started. Memorial Day's origins are shrouded in mystery and intrigue. Numerous towns across the United States vie for the honor of being recognized as its birthplace. Among those, Waterloo, New York, or Carbondale, Illinois stand out, yet historians believed that the first continuous commemoration might be in Columbus, Mississippi, where in April of 1866, a group of compassionate women took it upon themselves to decorate the graves of fallen soldiers, turning their grief into a solemn tradition. However, a lesser known yet equally compelling tale comes from freedmen in Charleston, South Carolina. This hidden chapter came to light thanks to David Blight, a professor of American history at Yale University. On a fateful day in 1996, while digging through boxes at Harvard's Halton Library, he stumbled upon a treasure, a handwritten account of the first Decoration Day in 1865. Accompanying this narrative was a clipping from a New York Tribune labeled First Decoration Day. So, in the spring of 1865, the Civil War just ended. The city of Charleston laid in ruins, a somber backdrop against a slow march towards freedom. The war had left many scars, but none more profound than the makeshift prison at Washington's Racecourse and Jockey Club, a once lavish playground for the Southern elite, was now a stark reminder of cruelty and captivity. Here, in the open-air field of the racetrack, more than 260 Union soldiers perished, subjugated to disease and exposure, their bodies hastily buried into a mass grave. Once Confederate forces evacuated, leaving behind the battered city, an extraordinary event unfolded, initiated by the newly freed African Americans. These men and women who had just endured the shackles of enslavement stepped forward to honor those who laid unremembered in the makeshift graves, and as their first act of liberty was not one of celebration for themselves, but one of commemoration for the fallen. With meticulous care, they exhumed the mass graves, and over 10 days, they reburied each soldier, transforming the site into a dignified resting place. They erected a towering whitewashed fence around the newly sanctified ground, declaring it martyrs of the racecourse. This act was not just about giving the soldiers a proper burial, but it was a profound statement of humanity and grace from those who had long been denied it. And then, In April 1st, 1865, what happened next was truly unprecedented. What can only be described as a collective moment of catharsis. Approximately 10,000 people, mostly black freedmen in Charleston, South Carolina, gathered at the race course. The day commemorates with a parade of 3,000 black school children who marched holding roses and singing John Brown's Body. They, followed by scores of adults from Aid Society for free black men and women. But these scenes were not about a somber mourning, but a peaceful celebration and a tribute to the spirit of the fallen and the declaration of a new beginning. Throughout the day, black pastors delivered moving sermons, led spiritual hymns, filled the air of hope and renewal, and families gathered for picnics under the warm spring air, sharing stories and dreams for the future. Patriotic songs echoed throughout the day, and as the afternoon wore on, black and white Union regiments marched around the grave sites in a powerful display of unity. The graves themselves were transformed with a tapestry of flowers filled with sweet scents mingled with the spring breeze, and the sight was said to have brought a tear of joy to many an eye. It was a heartful tribute, a moment of pure human connection from the depths of sorrow and strife. For many years afterwards, the story remained hidden, cloaked in the silence of the white community of Charleston, and briefly resurfaced in a forgotten correspondence in a 1916 letter from the United Daughters of the Confederacy in New Orleans, seeking information about a large parade of freedmen on a horse track at the end of the war. The reply from the Charleston chapter was regretful and evasive, stating that I regret I am unable to gather any official information in response to this. Decades later, Union General John A. Logan led a veterans group called for a National Day of Remembrance for Fallen Soldiers, which was officially marked as Memorial Day, March 30th, 1868. Celebrations began taking place at Arlington Cemetery, and with each passing year, the origins of the day in Charleston grew dimmer and faded from the collective memory of the nation. Fast forward to the 20th century, when the once sacred site of the old racetrack was replaced with urban development, and the original graves were relocated to Beaufort's National Cemetery. Thus, the true origins of Memorial Day were overshadowed by a more formal national observance. However, the story doesn't end there. Many years later, at the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History, historian David Blight shared a forgotten history of the first Memorial Day. After his presentation, an older black woman approached him, her voice tinged with curiosity and awe. She accounted her grandfather had told her stories of a parade led by freedmen on an old racetrack, stories that she always wondered if they were actually a part of family legend or something more substantial. She asked Blight, "You mean those stories are true?" Visibly moved, Blight confirmation, renewed interest, and validation to the legacy preserved through family tales but lost to the public knowledge. And as we celebrate Memorial Day each year, it serves as a reminder, not just for those who died in past wars, but also as a strength and resilience to who, despite being oppressed, have contributed profoundly to our shared history. Thank you. I'm your host, Country Boy. This has been one of my...
That's powerful. I know that was new for me. I didn't know how Memorial Day got started, and that was very, very, when I first watched that documentary about, how, because really Kim Hudson, I put a post out yesterday, but Kim has really made me look at Memorial Day in a different light. I really never, but then to be honest, we all heard about Christmas, Easter, different holidays, being either pagan or coming from, a different story or narrative than we were told. So I just I thought that was interesting. I really thought that was crazy. So that was, you learn something new every day, like Reverend Tim Christopher says. But I want to get into Feeding Our Future. So the feds raided Feeding Our Future site in St. Paul, Minnesota, right? So I want to get into that little news report.
Just when you think it's over, there's a new chapter in the massive $250 million Feeding Our Future fraud scheme and a new raid on a St. Paul office. Lou Ragoose is here with tonight's top story.
Well, Lauren, this signals that the feds are not finished investigating new suspects in the $250 million pandemic fraud. Yesterday morning, the FBI raided the office of a nonprofit whose board of directors includes some movers and shakers in the business community. A nondescript office within a building in an industrial park on Vandalia Street in St. Paul is the home of New Vision Foundation, a nonprofit that works with disadvantaged youth by teaching coding and digital literacy. The company has even received kudos from Mayor Melvin Carter. But now, according to an unsealed search warrant, they are the latest focus for federal investigators in the $250 million Feeding Our Future meal program fraud case. An exhibit from former Feeding Our Future Executive Director Amy Bach's trial shows that they paid New Vision Foundation more than $2.5 million in taxpayer money in 2021 after New Vision claimed to serve more than 1 million meals to children. But according to the search warrant, the FBI believes meal count sheets such as these, claiming to feed more than 3,000 kids 2 meals every day, are phony. Workers at the electronics recycling site that leases New Vision the office told the feds they never saw any children there, either being served meals or otherwise. Another red flag pointed out in the search warrant, allegedly phony invoices claiming they bought their food from a supposed food service company located in Eden Prairie that actually turned out to be an apartment. Public tax filings for the nonprofit show that in 2021, the year it participated in the federal meal program, New Vision Foundation reported $3.5 million in gifts and grants, 5 times as much as the year before or after. No one from New Vision Foundation has been charged yet. This raid is the first new investigation in the Feeding Our Future case made public in more than a year. Now, the executive director of New Vision Foundation did not respond to my numerous requests for comment. I also left messages with each of the board of directors, including one who's affiliated with the St. Paul in Minnesota Foundation, but I did not hear back from any of them. Lauren.
Wow, it just continues. Lou, thank you.
No one understands me. If I actually told people how I'm feeling, they would think of me differently.
That's wild. That's even crazy to think about, that we're still talking about feeding our future. But the crazy part of that is that that doesn't really get into the core of it, because last night they had breaking news that a person was arrested trying to flee the country with Feeding Our Future. So that, and especially the one they just raided a joint just last week. So listen to this. I think her name is Hibo Daar.
Another suspect is behind bars tonight, facing federal charges in the $250 million Feeding Our Future fraud scheme. The suspect captured at the airport before boarding a flight to Dubai. Lou Ragoose is here with our top story. Lou?
Julie, we told you last week how the federal raid of a St. Paul nonprofit signaled that the U.S. Attorney's Office is not done charging new suspects in this case. Today they said that as soon as news of that raid broke, Hibo Daar booked an urgent international flight. Hibo Daar is now the 71st person to be charged in the $250 million Feeding Our Future pandemic meal fraud case. Court records show she claimed to serve 1 million meals to children out of this office in a business center on East Hennepin Avenue and collected $2.4 million in taxpayer money. But federal investigators believe her meal site, Northside Wellness, was fake and that she only spent less than $2,000 on food. According to the criminal complaint, Daar's case included all the telltale signs of the sprawling fraud. She wrote checks to Hadith Ahmed, a Feeding Our Future employee who's already pleaded guilty, and says checks like those were bribes. There are emails Daar sent to Amy Bach, the former executive director of Feeding Our Future, convicted by a jury this year, including meal count sheets the FBI says are fake. In those meal counts, the complaint says that by April 2021, Daar claimed to be serving about 40,000 meals to children every week. After Bach was convicted, it was unclear whether the feds intended to charge any additional suspects in the case. But late last week, the FBI raided a St. Paul nonprofit, New Vision Foundation, signaling they weren't finished. As news of that raid spread, prosecutors say Daar booked a flight to Dubai, set to leave 3 days later. The FBI arrested her at the airport before she could board. In court, the prosecutor said they informed Daar in April that she was one of the new targets of their investigation. They told the judge they believe she tried to escape, thinking charges are coming soon. Now in court, Daar's lawyer said that she was just traveling to visit her sick mother. But then she got caught in a lie, claiming that she hadn't traveled overseas since 2022. The prosecutors then pulled out her passport right in the courtroom and showed that she had been traveling regularly since then to several countries. She is now in the Sherburne County Jail. Julie?
Every time you think this story can't take another twist, it does.
Seems like it.
Any idea if there are more people that are going to be facing charges? Any indications?
Absolutely there are. We just don't know a number and how close the FBI is to filing those charges yet. But yeah, they are going to make another round of charges sometime here.
Wow. Is all I can definitely say. It's not even just, with all the scams and fraud and waste that is going on with programs. And it's crazy to me that, right after we do this big old thing for George Floyd and the memorial Rise and Remember, what are we rising and what are we remembering? Because nothing's changed. Nothing has changed. We're still doing the same old shit. The same old shit. I started to, and maybe I went down a rabbit hole that I shouldn't have went down or whatever, but I went down it. And there is accusations out there from Michael Brocap, I think his name is and Sean Holster. Let me see if I can find that tweet. I should have saved it. That we're talking about that the third precinct was given up for the fact of that it was to get rid of evidence. Whoops. Let's see, I'll probably get it on here. He ain't blocking yet. He probably will, but Sean ain't blocking yet. He unfollowed me though. I still follow him. I'm not Cherry Motors. Let me see. Right. Yeah, I couldn't even believe that. That wasn't what he had. He had reposted it. Let's see. I forgot who that was. I'm already reading shit. I should be looking for the tweet. But they were talking about how the third precinct was given up because all their evidence of laundering money was inside of there. And then it makes sense, right? Because, I think back, and I know my memory isn't the best. It's shit or whatever, but I think back between the days of May 26th and basically just the rest of the week in Minneapolis, and it makes sense to me because I remember, and maybe I don't know, going down that rabbit hole is kind of tricky or whatever, but you sit here and think about all the things that when people talk about conspiracy theories, especially when it came to like 9/11. Or like they got rid of evidence, you know what I'm saying, or whatever, of like proof. And then it makes sense, you know what I'm saying, because they've done the same thing to, Malcolm X, Fred Hampton, the MOVE movement. So it's not like it's something that's far-fetched because we will do whatever we need to do to make sure that America or the institutions are never held accountable. It's always another narrative. So it's something that I really honestly, especially with the political mess that Minnesota is in Minneapolis, especially with, with our state budget, because they're still talking about that. I'll talk about that later, but there hasn't really been much progress. We've done, and this is, I really wanted people to see is that even in one situation, her name was Chloe or Claire. Let me see. let me quit because I want to get her name correct. But her name was Chloe Tabor. And her story is to me is actually powerful. I feel like, you know, you need to listen to how Minnesota forms of justice and accountability and truth and transparency is all really fucked up. And I want you to hear the story about Chloe and how 8 years after DNA matched woman, she tells story of her rape to help others. So listen to Chloe.
Chloe Tabor was just 14 when a complete stranger broke into her family's Mankato home and attacked her. Now, a decade later, a DNA match is putting him behind bars.
And our Karen Scullin sat down with Chloe for an emotional conversation ahead of his sentencing. And as you'll see, Chloe's story is one of struggle, but also one of strength and success.
Well, we were contacted by Chloe's boyfriend, Elias Nord, who sent us a letter asking us to share Chloe's story. He wrote, "This story is more than just a trial. It's about justice, resilience, and the importance of never giving up hope. Chloe wants her experience to inspire other survivors to keep going, no matter how long the road may be. Please let me know if you would be willing to share her story." Here is a portion of Chloe's story. Been dealing with this for a long, long time now. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Currently, things got a little bit tougher just with sentencing coming up, dealing with the emotions of everything being brought back out. It's almost like you have to relive it again. Sleep, night terrors, all of those things happen.
Is it good for you to talk about what happened? Do you not talk about what happened?
Yeah, for many years I didn't talk about it. I just recently started talking about it after I got that first call that they had a DNA hit, and that's when everything kind of came flooding back in.
You were 14?
Yep, 14 years old.
So walk us through what you remember.
I had went to bed probably around 10:30, 11. I had been sleeping that night for, I don't know, a couple of hours at this point. And I remember waking up just very slightly to like ruffling sounds or something. He knew to unplug and turn off the headlamp or the heat lamp for my lizard's cage and took my phone immediately before crawling into the bed or anything, so I couldn't call for help or anything. I remember feeling him crawl over me, and that's kind of when I noticed that like something's wrong. And pretty quickly after that, I had a hand over my mouth and was told that if I screamed or did anything to wake my parents or anything, that he'd kill me. And that's basically how that was. And yeah, after the attack was done, I was told to go get him a glass of water. And I quickly ran out. All I had on was a shirt. At this point, crying, sobbing, I ran straight to my dad's bedroom downstairs, woke him up on the phone. They're like, you know, don't shower, don't do anything to your body that could, you know, erase evidence or anything. They showed up, they took pictures, they swiped for fingerprints on the windows and the windowsills, checked my bedding.
So at the age of 14, you're calling the police to ask if there are any updates or any progress on your case.
Yeah, and I did that for years.
Wow.
And eventually it got to the point I was like, they're not going to do anything. I struggled a lot with doing not so safe things. I ended up getting pregnant at 15. It's another one that I thought was a really weird symptom of it, or sign or whatever, is you would think after being raped that sex and those kind of things would be something that you would want nothing to do with. And I came to find out as I got older that that's not the case. Sometimes they become, like, victims and survivors become like hypersexual or do things not so safely, which I thought I was crazy for, but I came to find out it's more common than we realize. But I did become pregnant at 15. I have a beautiful 8-year-old. She basically saved my life after the fact. So I really started to get on track when I was about 18, 19, 20. Yeah, and then all that kind of hit 2 years ago.
I was about to say, so you got a call one day that there was a DNA match?
Yeah, 8 years had passed. I was working at a school in Cleveland, Minnesota. I was on my lunch break, and it was only probably 2 or 3 minutes before I was going to head back in for the rest of my shift, and my phone rang, and it said Blue Earth County. The rest of that day, I sat in my car for 45 minutes, like hyperventilating and sobbing and calling my aunt and my mom.
When you saw him for the first time, what would you think?
The first time, I remember it very, very well. He continued to turn back and like stare at me. And I was doing okay at first. When we first went in there, before that, I felt super anxious and nervous and just so many emotions I didn't understand at the time. But when he started looking back, I got pretty freaked out. I started shaking. Eventually the advocate asked the attorney to make it stop somehow, because he was almost turned around in his chair looking at me. And so being at all the hearings has helped me to understand the process, and I think it helps me cope. And
has it empowered you?
It definitely has, because I've come to realize that cold cases like mine are very rare.
Will you forgive him?
No, I don't think so. And that's kind of hard to say, because I think forgiving people is big, but I do think there's certain things that just can't be forgiven.
Usually at sentencing, I think they give the defendant an opportunity to speak. Do you hope he apologizes? Or what do you hope he says?
Admit what he did and take accountability for it, at least. An apology isn't going to stop anything, but it might be good to hear. I don't know.
You're looking forward to sentencing?
Oh God, yeah. I can't wait for it to be completely done. Can't wait for it to be done. I've waited for it for 10 years. And yeah, I just, being heard and like getting somewhere and knowing that everything I went through the last 2 years meant something. The pain and the side effects and things that can come from it can last forever. It's been 10 years and I have PTSD, and it can take over some days to the point I can't do anything. And they're not always directly associated with what happened. It's just how the brain responds. And so I want family to understand and give some grace to their friends or their family members who maybe are going through it, or have gone through it and are struggling.
Sentencing is June 2nd. After that, Chloe's doctor has recommended she take time off work to recover and to take care of herself and her family. That will create a financial strain. So if you'd like to help out, there is a GoFundMe. We have a link to it on the online story.
Wow. To be honest, it makes me think about a situation here in Rochester that we're going through that just came out recently. I believe that it was last week. May 22nd. Is that he was charged with impregnating. She was 14 at the time. And how they got him was DNA evidence. See, and that really, it trips me out. I shouldn't say trips me out, but, we're hearing, I go back to when I think about this situation, I think about Shiloh Hendricks, right? I think about, and I don't know why, it's crazy, but I do. And I think about the case with Shamarky, the cameraman from that day, and how his whole charge and how the DNA was kept on fucking up with the VCA. And it's like, damn. So some people can get justice and some people can't. Because I will tell you right now, if that little girl that Shamarky and his brother, Omar, raped her, she was very clear on the details of the whole situation. So I kind of believe her. She said her glasses were in the car. She said that, she drank Dr. Pepper. So in my eyes, like, in a way, I see this dude. I watch him all the time on TikTok. I go through his TikToks or whatever, and I'm just like, I kind of do believe that what's in the story, you know, in the court papers, and it's like in his charging papers or whatever. And it's like, I see that the BCA wasn't getting their shit done, wasn't getting the DNA evidence. So it makes me wonder how some people do get justice and accountability, and some people, they don't even talk about it. They don't even discuss it or none of that. Zahara's charge got dropped last minute. Lots of evidence. Wonder what happened. Oh shit, I gotta understand what you're talking about. Got dropped last minute. Lots of evidence. I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, there was a lot of evidence, and I guess I don't even know what you're talking about. So right now, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. But it makes me just still go back to all the things that we're dealing with, you know, in today's society. And how don't people want to call out their friends, call out their you know, their buddies. And it's like, I remember working with this dude, Stanford, Pierre, all champion. Damn, his charges got dropped? No way. What? You're joking. When he sends that to me, I'm gonna put it up there. I'm gonna read about it because that's crazy as hell. Like, that just shows me again that Minnesota is the land. Because I will tell you right now, there's a trial going on right now. But and this shit is just crazy because I know people died, and it's like, it's so crazy to me of like how we as individuals are so afraid of responsibility and accountability, that we will sit here and do whatever to be able to be free. You know, I sit there and I read daily about the Diddy trial on. Dude is on there on Twitter. I think his name is Inner City Press. Yeah, Inner City Press. But every day he's at the Diddy trial. So I'm sitting there reading it, and you know, Kid Cudi's been up there, Cassie's been up there. So it is day 11, and again, there's been some personal assistants. I think it's been 3 of them that have been up there so far, that have testified. And it's just wild to me. I mean, reading some of the shit of like, you know, even like, yeah, I really, really, wow. Yeah. Because the whole Diddy shit, just trial has made me look at this shit in a whole celebrities in another light. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they've been going through this every day. Every day. You know, you're hearing weird shit about, you know, pink cocaine, or they were putting drugs in the baby oil. And, you know, you're hearing about this Molly and MDA. And you're like, damn, this nigga. But then what makes it, you know, what was crazy is the man had so much money that he felt like whatever he did, he could do because he was rich. I sit there and I think about it, and I'm not a, you know, I will say this, right, is, you know, even about, because it really makes me look at Diddy really weird, is like when Cassie came out and she was like, she was with the one dude and would rub like dudes offering on Diddy's nipples. And it's like, man, these dudes are weird. Like, I don't, you know what I'm saying? I don't never and ever want to be a part of that freak shit. You know, now I understand when you hear, you know, a Cat Williams say like, sometimes you got to tell a Diddy no, because Diddy want to party. And then you hear all the things that came out with his little freak offs and, you know, you're like, Buddy was a straight freak. So this morning, they have called Christopher Ignacio, who is an LAPD officer, and I think he's talking about Kid Cudi's car to be hitting when Diddy, because this is crazy as hell to me, right? How that he literally, oh yeah, and then talking about Kid Cudi, yeah, because supposedly Diddy set his car on fire. That's crazy. That's crazy as hell. These are millionaires getting into it. So overall female. So when you hear, you know, the song More Money, More Problems, you're understanding that these are not poor people issues. Maybe I did said that wrong, but it's wild to me because I can literally I see people do this all the time in neighborhoods, in the communities. They get mad over, you know, I remember living in Red Wing, and I won't say the names or whatever, but there were situations where you had females, or even like in BLM in Minneapolis, it was like, and I honestly think, and I believe that because I will say it like this, right? The shit that I seen, being like BLM and being in Minneapolis and boots on the ground, I can honestly think it's no different from Puffy, from Diddy, whatever you want to call him, Puffy. You know, because you know, what's crazy to me, and I'll talk about it right for a second, is like as I'm reading, you know, the Diddy transcripts and what's going on at trial, and the things that have came out, it makes me it takes me back to early 2020 and 2021, you know, I should say late 2020 and early 21, and how, you know, you were around this movement and you would go to events and but people were using it like a POF. So I started calling it Plenty of Pussy, because that's how people used it. They used the movement as a dating service. Because I don't know how many women I was around that were just being like, I remember, and this is wild, and I'm going to talk about it, is being downtown when we were doing Locks of Love, and we stayed downtown at the government center for a week. I remember one time we were getting high. We were in Frank Needy's car, and it was me, Cortez, Frank, Sino. I'm trying to, and I think Todd was there. And we were getting high, and then Damick was there too. Don't let me forget Damick. And we were sitting there looking at Frank and Cortez were showing women, and I was just like, wait, I don't care what y'all do, because I didn't come to this shit to be out here. And that's what made me start realizing that when I seen that in 2021, but I seen a lot of things before that, like envelopes being passed, and, you know, people talking about wine bottles up their coochies, and, you know, they were doing this, they were doing that. I really started to think and look at people differently in the movement and be like, what are you here for? It's not about, is it about Black Lives Matter, or is it about Black Dicks Matter? I'm going to say that again, Black Dicks, DICKS. Because to be honest, our lives don't matter because we're saying the names over and over and over and over and over again. I don't know how many times, I shouldn't even say how many times, because that makes me feel like I need to go to jail or whatever. Maybe I do. I mean, I did delete, videos off phones. I guess that's an obstruction of justice. You know what I'm saying? When I'm going through law books now, and today I got class and it's ethics or whatever, but, that's the one thing I can look in the mirror and I can talk about my wrongs. I can talk about that I deleted that in my eyes. It was unconsensual because I would tell you like this, most of the women that I called in Minneapolis, they didn't even know that they had videos, that they made sex videos, whatever you want to call it, porn. Because what was crazy to me is that in the bedroom, there was a camera, but it was always said that it was for to watch outside. But what a lot of people didn't know is that when you went in there, that camera was pointing inside. It was pointing inside that room. So there was a lot of things that I seen with and got rid of in my eyes today. Even 2 years ago, it was a crime, and it still is a crime. And it doesn't matter to me how much people get mad at me, right? I don't care about I made a whole song about it. Cincinnati Booty Eater, CBE. You know what I'm saying? Like people, I sat there and around, even the things that I deal with, right? We deal with it as a community. We get mad. People always want to bring up Chaz Neal did this, Chaz Neal did that. You guys are bringing up things that when I was in high school. Not as a 40-year-old adult. Not like how I bring up your wrongs. How I bring up Bobby Joe Champion. Or Pastor McAfee. Or Spike Moss. Or Stuttering L. Flowers. Or Lisa Clemens. I'm talking about their wrongs that they've done and haven't paid no accountability for. Or there hasn't been any transparency. Because I will tell you like this. I'm going through the memories, and that's what I've been doing the last couple of days, is sitting here going through old podcasts. And sitting remembering the things that, I have a lot of I don't know where it's at right now, but I have paperwork and papers and and things like that. And I go through it sometimes, even with like the files that me and Robert have. I go through it a lot, because I'll tell you right now, since my stroke, I can't think about shit. All right. I can't believe they dropped it. It's crazy. That wasn't even news. It wasn't even news. That's crazy. It should have been national news. Because that's I know I'm gonna take it off big screen. I'm gonna go look at it. Let me see. I can put it on something else. I'll put you back on there. Just gotta look at all my messages. They really dropped all the charges. That's crazy. That's crazy as hell. All right. 2017. That's that's crazy. That is crazy. Let's see. Yeah, that's where I want to go. To the macro. Yes, I accept. Case number. You're like, how does he do that? You just got to know where to go. Oh, wow. 3rd degree. What the hell? Regina Chu. Wow. So Kim Potter's judge. Wow. That's a lot of shit. I'm gonna talk to somebody about that, but that's wild. So there was lawyers. Bobby Joe Champion, get the fuck out of here. So he was a lawyer for his nephew. Wow. I know he's an Alameen, yeah. Damn, that's wild. Wow. Bloomington. It was dismissed. What? I wonder why it was dismissed. Bobby being on it doesn't shock me. Damn, $500,000 bail. Wow. Cash alternative. No contact with victim. Wow. I didn't go back. I don't think I went back that far. Damn. Regina Chu. Then it went to court case assignment. The BCA automatic expungement notice. Oh, wow. Witness list. I wonder who's all the witnesses. I bet you can't even see that shit. Oh, you can. Kendra Coleman, Megan Hickey, Heather Potter, Tracy Martin, Midwest Children's Resource Center, Michael Freeman. Doesn't shock me. Oh, wow. Let me see. Said there was a lot of evidence. What do you mean by there was a lot of evidence in the case, and you wonder why there was a? I mean, already that's big. Bail to stand is previously ordered. So I don't think he ever got out of jail either. I had a lot of bail hearings. That's for damn sure. I want to read this real quick. I'll put it there for y'all. I'm transparent. So the defendant moves to dismiss charges against him for lack of probable cause because the entire record supports a finding of probable cause on the charge offense. Statement of facts. On May 18th, 2017, the Bloomington Police Department received a call from an advanced practice registered nurse at Midwest Children's Resource Center. The nurse reported that a male, oh, wow. The nurse reported that a male born January 2nd, 2002, was reporting that so at the time, he would have been about 15, had been raped at the Comfort Inn on the block. Damn, I've actually stayed there. That's nuts. Wow. I got stories to tell about that place. In a forensic interview, victim stated that his uncle's ex-girlfriend got him in touch with defendant on Facebook. Witness told victim that the defendant would give him drugs and alcohol if he let the defendant fool around with him. What? Yeah, I ain't even gonna read no more because these niggas are sick. Wow. You know, the thing about it for me, damn, we're on the same time. Wow. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. It's crazy to me that reading some of that shit and to see that people don't say things that's, oh, see, if you see something, say something. But when they see the shit, they don't say nothing. So then it makes me wonder, like, how dirty are you? You sit here and tell people if they see something, say something. But why didn't you never say nothing? Why? You know what I'm saying? Like, I always wondered about that. Is like, how can we tell people to say something when they see something when you see shit, but yet you don't even say nothing? So that's really an oxymoron, whatever the hell you want to call it, to me, is because I don't see how we as individuals can tell people to say something when they see it, but when we see it, we're quiet like church mics. I'm gonna get back to that. I'm gonna read some of that. I'm gonna get back to it today, actually, but I want to get on to the rest of the shows because I want to talk about Brooklyn Park's dirty secret, and I'm gonna show y'all about Brooklyn Park and how this man who worked for the city was charged with rape when he went there on city business.
We're pressing Brooklyn Park city leaders for answers about why their public works director is off the payroll despite a resignation and grand jury indictment on sex crimes.
We first reported on Daniel Ruiz's arrest in Atlanta in September. At the time, he was on a taxpayer-funded work trip when a woman accused him of attacking her.
Ben Henry was at tonight's council meeting where we heard from city leaders for the first time since the indictment.
Lindsay and Kevin, there was no mention of this during the meeting, but as council members walked in for the meeting, I did try and ask and talk with them about Ruiz continuing to get paid, but they would not comment. Taxpayers did speak with us. They are not happy about it.
I've asked. I've been here for 4 years.
Colette Guyett Hempel is a familiar face at Brooklyn Park City Hall.
So thank you for your time. Good night.
She's well aware of the city's public works director's resignation in wake of a grand jury indictment surrounding sexual assault charges, and that he'll still have the job for several more weeks.
It's your tax dollars. What is your thought?
My thought is there's far better places to be spending the money.
Daniel Ruiz faces charges of rape, aggravated sodomy, false imprisonment, and battery. He was arrested in early September while attending a taxpayer-funded work conference in Atlanta that cost nearly $8,000. There, a woman told police Ruiz sexually assaulted her in a hotel room, and when she returned to escape, Ruiz forced her back inside and continued the assault. A spokesperson for Brooklyn Park tells us Ruiz has been on leave since and will be on the city's payroll until his resignation takes effect on June 27th.
I don't agree with that. I don't think they should pay him for another 30 days. He's been paid too much already.
When we asked why Ruiz will continue to be paid, Brooklyn Park pointed to leave policy in the city handbook, which says an employee may be placed on paid or unpaid involuntary leave pending the outcome of an internal or external investigation or any matter deemed necessary by the city manager.
If you're involved for a resignation related to a crime, then maybe the money needs to not be spent that way.
We are still waiting to hear back from Ruiz's attorney, but in an earlier comment had said he denies any wrongdoing. After tonight's meeting, I did try and speak with Mayor Hollis Winston about this. He did not stop to talk with me, but did mention as he was leaving, they do not comment ahead of due process. Live in Brooklyn Park, Ben Henry, 5 Eyewitness News.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Wow, wow, wow. That's all I can really say. I sit there and I think about, like, why do our politicians hide the ugliness in our communities? Why do they hide it? You sit here and I've heard rumors that it's that the reporter, the person that reported the crime was his wife. I'm not 100% sure how that is, how much true that is. But I heard that it was his wife. And that's what's crazy as hell to me is that, yeah, I don't even get that shit. Because I think about it with Vanessa Jensen. I think about it with, some of the babies that died, Terrell Mays. And it's like, when are we ever going to get justice? When are we ever going to get transparency? You know what I'm saying? Of like, when will we as a community are able to tell the truth about situations? I want to be, I'm literally asking a serious ass question of like, when will we as people be comfortable enough to have these conversations with our brothers, with our sisters, with our cousins, with our uncles, nephews, nieces? Because what we're repeating is generational trauma. And I'm going to be honest, we are as people committing generational trauma. We as people commit, bless up, generational trauma. Because when we sit there and say things like, oh, if you see something, say something, but then snitches get stitches. Or what happens in the house stays in the house. What about what happens when you see something, say something? Because there's too many people that when you say things are going on, well, my baby is sweet. My baby didn't do that. My boy, a good boy. My girl, a good girl. No, just because here's the thing that I want people to remember, right? I'm not saying that Jerry McAfee, Lisa Clemens, Bobby Joe Champion, they haven't done good work in our community. But what about the wrongs that they have done? And there has been no accountability. There has been no justice. And we're seeing that innocent Black boys and girls have paid, and some of them have been wrongfully convicted. Others have lost their lives. Others have lost their lives over speaking the truth. That's why Chicago got rid of Fred Hampton. That's why Philadelphia bombed the MOVE movement. These people don't want the truth. That's what's crazy as hell to me is we as people, I sit here and I think about this constantly since last week, is after Floyd, what's changed? Because I will tell you right now, not a goddamn thing. And it's only gotten worse. Because we have leaders who get elected and they still lie to their people. And when they go out there and tell the truth, they get railroaded. That's what's crazy to me, right? It's because I remember everything about John Thompson, how he was the glory boy for the Black community. But yet when he started speaking the truth, they started to, I won't even say railroad him, but because obviously it was things that they already known because it was a simple Google search for a lot of the shit. So you mean to tell me that Governor Walz or Bobby Champion, you didn't know these things until they came out into the media? You're a fucking lie. Because I know this shit was going on behind closed doors. Y'all were having these conversations. See, it's always behind, even right now with our state budget, it's behind closed door. How are we being transparent and being truthful? Because I will tell you right now, that state budget isn't, people think, I'm going to tell you right now, we hear all this shit about compromise. I'm going to hear all this shit about compromise because I will tell you right now, they compromised by saying we only want to fund undocumented immigrants who are kids. We don't want no adults, even though we've had over 20-some thousand people sign up for, free Medicare for undocumented people. And now they want to continually paying for that. But see, the compromise is going to be supposedly that we don't want to pay for the adults anymore. We're only going to pay for the kids. Now, I'm going to tell you like this. As a Minnesotan who is a taxpayer, I'm not okay with that. That's not a compromise I'm okay with, because I know people who live in Rochester, Minnesota, Austin, Minnesota, Minneapolis, Minnesota, St. Paul, Minnesota, who are being unheard. Who feel like they are disenfranchised. And I don't agree with everybody. I'm going to tell you right now that I sit here and I'm in so many email groups. I get emails from the DFL. I get emails from the GOP. I get emails from the Green Party. I get emails from the Libertarians. And I'm going to tell you right now, they're all asking for money. What's changed? I don't see anybody out here championing, making sure that Black lives really matter. Because I'll tell you right now, I'm tired of hearing the stories after story of an unarmed Black man, but yet you demonize them and then you come out with the truth. That is crazy as hell. That's how it is. That's how it is. We don't want anything in Minnesota. The last two legislative sessions, the trifecta in Minnesota has ran over the rest of Minnesota. And do they care? Do they care? No. You know why? Because it's political to seem like, oh, everything is okay. We got data and stats to show that you're lying, that you're not. But yet when that shit comes out, when the truth comes out, y'all don't remember that. See, right, I am too. I will say this. I don't know how many people in Minnesota that this is a starter for them. We can get, this is the one thing. I don't care what you think about when it comes to defunding the police or when it comes to the education, because we can talk about that later. Because I know there's a lot of Minnesotans that are not cool with the legal immigrants or undocumented immigrants, whatever they want to say, are getting anything for free on a dime. I'm 100 with Laverne. Now, how many GOP members and how many DFL members agree with that? Because supposedly they came out right before Memorial Day and said they compromised and said, we're not going to give adults, but we're going to give kids. Now, what about driver's license for all? What about education? What about housing? You're not saying shit about that. You're not saying a goddamn thing about, oh, we're just going to take health care, but what about all the other free things that you're giving them? Yeah, we're closing them at a great rate. But I will tell you like this. I see more stories about how judges, how nonprofits who are getting state money are helping undocumented immigrants. But yet, let me tell you this. How many Americans have y'all changed their clothes, helped change their clothes, lied to federal police, law enforcement? I thought we were back to blue. I thought we wanted justice. We wanted crime not in our communities. So how are you helping illegal immigrants get away from the police? Because they will be mistreated in prison or jail, whatever y'all want to say. So that's y'all reason. Well, what about all the Black bodies that are in jail and bars right now, behind bars, and they didn't do the crime? But yet y'all are out here protecting immigrants that committed crimes. That's crazy. Oh, yeah, but it's not racist. You know what? I don't give a fuck what a Democrat says, right? Always hear that, oh, they're going to be racist. They're not. I will say it like this. They're not heartless or racist. How come you don't care about Americans that are being left behind or being left out? How is that not being racist? That's why, you know what's crazy is we need to have more talks about I forget the name of the book. They were just talking about it. God damn it, Hebrews over Negroes. Why don't we know what? Because I'm with Royce White. He's not no anti-Semitic. He's an anti-Semitic. Because go read the Bible. How can you be anti-Semitic when you are Semitic yourself? We put on something that a sleeve and how we feel to call people because that's all y'all know. You can't speak the truth. You know, that's what's crazy is that people will come at me and want to talk about, you know, a case that I was in high school. What about Lisa Clemens? You killed a black man. And when anybody asks you about that, you tell her it's a lie. You say that's not the truth. But it is the truth. It is the truth. It is the truth that fraud and waste has been going on way before Donald Trump was ever president. But y'all want to blame it on politics. Because I will tell you like this, is that fraud and waste has been in Minnesota for a very, very long time. And just what's crazy is I'm going to get into the next story because I want to talk about Bobby Joe Champion. And I want to talk about the Democrats. And I know my wife got to work today. So I ain't got to get off. She already gone, I think. So I'm going to stay on a little extra because I want to talk about Bobby. I want to talk about the Democrats. And especially when there's another thing that Robert sent me that I want to look at. But I'm going to get into it. So with that being said, I want to get into the budget talks at the state capitol. Thank you, Robert. I don't know why. Let me see if I can get to that. Damn, that's crazy. I wonder why the audio isn't playing. Hear a cat over here wheezing. Still not.
Lisa Damath, Senate Majority Leader Aaron.
An explosive day at the Capitol has really revealed some deep divisions now as lawmakers try to work out a state budget before a special session.
They are on the clock to avoid a government shutdown. And Fox 9's Court Hoggard saw the good, the bad, and the ugly today.
Walking into the governor's office Tuesday, House Speaker Lisa Damath, Senate Majority Leader Aaron Murphy, and House Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman were all smiles. Hortman even expressing optimism that the finish line is near.
Yeah, no, we're hoping to wrap things up this week and that the revisor will finish drafting soon thereafter.
But reasons for pessimism are also abundant. Senate Minority Leader Mark Johnson was absent Tuesday and hasn't been invited to meet with the other leaders in 5 days. And most of the negotiations are happening behind closed doors. But 2 working groups are meeting in public. Tensions escalated in the taxes group Tuesday when Senator Ann Rest pushed House members to dry the ink on a couple compromises proposed by the House members.
To move forward, the Senate is accepting your offer. One would think that the House would vote for their own offer. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no.
No.
The motion fails. Let it be known to our leaders that the House cannot even accept their own proposal.
The issue of health care coverage for undocumented immigrants is also still a powder keg. A few dozen protesters rallied in front of the governor's office, hoping to convince negotiators to back down from the change cutting undocumented adults out of MNCare. They argue the coverage saves money in the long run, and it's the right thing to do with the budget.
Always, they got to be a moral document, but people tend to make it political document.
They're working under a couple deadlines now. The state government would completely shut down if there's no deal by July 1st. And because of that, state employees would have to get layoff notices by Monday if there's no deal by then, so they would have 30 days notice. At this point, that seems like a foregone conclusion, even in the best case scenario. At the Capitol, Corin Hoggard, Fox.
So, in my eyes, I think we need a government shutdown. I'm going to be honest. I feel like with everything that is going on, and especially everything that with fraud, with waste, with policies and initiatives that are maybe DEI or LGBTQ, I think that are things that we need to slow down and look at. We need to look at those policies, and do we need them initiatives or do we not? Or do we just need to be telling the truth and not sweep it up and make it seem like there are other issues at play, when at the end of the day, it's all just politicians out here lying to the people. You know what I'm saying? I feel like no matter when it comes to our politics and our politicians, you know, like Ann Rest said, I can't believe that House members, because they don't want to compromise, you know, and that's the thing of it is they want to go back to their voters and say, we fought for y'all. We fought. You know, that's the one thing that been talked about since 2020. What, you know, especially with the GOP, you know, I hear things, and I shouldn't even say hear, but I see, you know, tweets from like Walter, or, you know, when they talk about the biennium, especially the last two where we had trifectas. Well, it wasn't our fault. We were in the minority. We couldn't do nothing. Yes, you could. Why didn't you warn people? This is my thing of it is, y'all was looking so much for sound bites, for followers. How many of those followers turned into votes? How much door knocking turned into votes? Because I will tell you right now, if you put every organization, this is one thing that I want people to know, right? Is that most organizations, not saying that they're all bad, but have bad seeds because the roots are rotten. It has nothing to do about why the organization started, why it was funded. The thing is, it's not done that way anymore. It's not. It's not about, you know, equality. It's not about diversity. It's not about inclusion. It ain't none of that. It ain't none, you know. I want to play something from, I think this is from 2024. And it ain't that long. I think it's about Kyrie. Hold on. Right, here it is. I don't know, we didn't share. I don't know why.
Not standing with Alex Jones' position.
Can't hear it. Goddamn. Let me stop. I don't know. Oh, there it goes. Hold on.
my post was a post from Alex Jones that he did in the early 90s or late 90s about secret societies in America of occults, and it's true. So I wasn't identifying with anything of being a campaignist for Alex Jones or anything. I'm just there to post. And it's funny, and it's actually hilarious, because out of all the things I posted that day, that was the one post that everyone chose to see. Of course. It just goes back to the way our world is and works. I'm not here to complain about it. I just exist.
Mm-hmm. And to follow up on the promotion of the movie and the book.
Can you please stop calling it a promotion? What am I promoting?
Put it out on your platform.
But I'm promoting it? Do you see me in front of
putting it out there, people
title?
are going to say that you are
Yeah, I put it out there just like you put things out there, right?
Yeah, but
okay.
It's not
you put things out there for a living, right?
Right, but my stuff
is
not
so let's move on.
Filled
let's
with
move on.
Anti-Semitic
Let's
stuff.
move on. Don't dehumanize me up here.
I'm not doing that.
Another
You're
human
free
being.
to post
I can post whatever I want. So say that and shut it down and move on to the next question.
Kyrie, you have to understand that
I don't have to understand anything from you.
It's not me.
Nothing.
It's
no people that you're making up, bro. Move on.
But by posting
move
what
on.
you
Next
did,
question.
Anybody
you guys have any more questions?
And they're going to say,
you guys have any more questions? Because this is going to be a clip.
beliefs.
This is going to be a clip that he's going to marvel at. Is this any more questions?
But you're not answering the question.
This is another answering your question. Oh my God, let's make another Instagram clip so we could be famous again. Next question.
Kyrie, basketball related.
Wow. Yo. Shut that down. Like, look.
Definitely did. And so I went to Twitter while that video was playing and just put in the search bar, Hebrews to Negroes, which is the documentary that is, I guess, causing a shitstorm. But this
so Hebrews to Negroes. But I feel like no matter how much we've talked about how much we need diversity, equity, and inclusion, how close have we got there? How far are we from the goal line? Because I will tell you like this, in a lot of places, I feel like we haven't even started. We haven't even started to look at the real issues because we always over talk the problems in our communities, right? We want to talk about, oh, we did this, we did that, we did this, we did that. What did you do? What did you do? You know what I'm saying? That's one thing that I will never understand is like, even when it comes down to the nonprofits, even when it comes down to Minnesota Freedom Fund, who doesn't want to, as of June 1st, they won't be bailing out inmates anymore. You guys have millions. So what are you going to do? Because as an organization, that's what your mission statement is. And your vision is to bond. You know what? I'm going to pull that up. While I'm sitting here talking about it, I'm going to pull it up. What their vision and statement is. All right, let me see. All right. So here is the Minnesota Freedom Fund. Now, look at this. Minnesota Freedom Fund pays cash bails and immigration bonds for those who can't afford it because wealth should never decide who is kept in detention and who goes free. What we do, the cash bail and immigration detention systems put a price on freedom that only a few can afford, and effectively criminalizing poverty and fueling the growth of mass incarcerations. At Minnesota Freedom Fund, we pay bails and immigration bonds, provide support to clients after release, and build communities where wealth does not determine freedom. Yeah, I don't see none of that. I don't see the Freedom Fund doing any of that. So you're not going to pay for pretrial bonds anymore. You're not paying immigration bonds. So are you now doing client support and community building? Right? You supposedly you host events, you watch the courts, you educate our community. But I don't see that. What I see is education to the Minnesota Vikings, the Lynx, the Timberwolves, but I don't see you community building in North Minneapolis, on 36th and Penn, on 44th and Fremont. I don't even think that's a street. It might be, though. 44th and Fremont. Yes, it is. The Jordan neighborhood. The Northrop community. The Lake community. Oh, we have beautiful lakes over on Lake Street. But what about the people that is lost? What about the people that are being left behind? Because I see a lot of people out here promoting that their son graduated or their daughter. What is their reading level? What is their writing level? What mathematics can they do? Can they read at a senior grade level, at a 12th grade level? Can they do math of what 12th graders are supposed to be doing? And I bet you most times they can't. They can't, because I will tell you right now that my kids can't even read cursive because schools are starting to get away from it. My kids, some of them have shitty handwriting because the tablet does it all, or their laptop does it all. Our spell checks. It ain't shit about what is right and what is wrong anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's about, yeah, it blocked me too. I don't know why. It really blocked. I don't know why it did. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I did bring up too many names or whatever, but I don't know why. I wouldn't even let me share it either. So I had to stop sharing because it wouldn't let me share shit. So, yeah, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Minneapolis and Minnesota is in such, even reading about Champion, I sit here and I think about, it brings me back. Again, I'm going to go back until the movement days, the uprising, whatever they want to call it. Because even the injustices that went on with, and I'm not saying that police brutality isn't a major injustice. I'm not saying that us shooting each other is not a major injustice, but the wrongs that we do to our own community members, that's injustice. When we sit there and we be around people that we know that their family members are locked up and they didn't do it, we don't help them. I think about all the things, like especially with Marvina. She's crucified for the actions that are public. Everybody knows they had marches. Everybody knows that there was it's public knowledge that there was a gambling ring. It's public knowledge now that there was so many other flaws with her brother's case. And yet still we have people that will look the other way and say that's not right, that he should be behind bars, that he is guilty, even though he was exonerated by a jury. I shouldn't say a jury, but by a court that we voted for. Every turnaround, the same thing that happened in Rochester. People they get released on no bail. And our predators, sexual predators, are violent offenders, but we let them out. And we say that there is no threat to the public safety. How is there not a threat when an adult male makes a decision to get with a juvenile? How is that not a threat to public safety? How is that not a threat? I want to say that again. How is that not a threat? How is that not a threat? One situation that I think about a lot, and it's about Red Wing. And I think about the boy that died from the overdose when he was a confidential informant working for the police. And there is a lawsuit. But to know that the Red Wing police could have did something, and instead they waited so they could get more serious charges on the person. Now that is foul. And I don't understand that. Is like we see or know things, and especially I will say it like this, right? Because even in Red Wing, Minnesota, you see all these different, the Black Student Union, or you see this, you see that, but still don't want to talk about the racism. They don't want to talk about the history that runs deep. The history that runs deep. Somebody put a post out the other day talking about Red Wing and about how they were vandalizing. There were swastikas and there was, gang signs all over, playgrounds and utility equipment and up in the hills and all that. And I'm like, where is Public Works? Where is Public Works? You have a whole department that all they do is supposed to be taking care and making sure that the community looks the way that it's supposed to be pretty. But how come when it's in impoverished neighborhoods or that part of town that you want to leave behind and you don't care about still looks the same and you let it go downhill? The same thing with Memorial Hill. You'll let people put swastikas or you let them put racial things or gang signs. Why? I thought, how is it that in Rochester, they want charges for a woman saying the nigger word, but in Red Wing, you can just say the nigger word, you can say monkey, you can say all types of shit, and you don't hear people screaming for charges. What you hear people screaming for is change. It's change. And that, I see Amber Plank, and I see her, post about all the things that she's done for her daughter. And the paperwork that she's had to document, that she's had to write down, because I've seen the binder she's posted on Facebook, and it's sad that I see so many people. Even what's crazy to me, right? I'm gonna see if I can pull it up real quick. Is a lady that I cannot stand, right? She totally, and I talk about her occasionally, but it was Rachel. I forget the girl's name. Let's see if I can get it. Let's see if I can get Rachel's earlier. So I'm in earlier. Because y'all gonna be like, what? I couldn't believe it either, though. I'm gonna be honest. I couldn't believe it either. I could not believe it. I was like, wait, what? This has got to be a mistake. But it was Rachel. And I did take a picture of it or whatever, but it was in a comment that I made, and I don't think I'm gonna see it. I don't think I'm gonna find it. No, I don't think I'm gonna find it. But yeah, it was hilarious to me that a woman that I despise, and shouldn't even say despise, but I totally can't understand the way that she's a nurse practitioner. But she liked something that I said when I was a post was, I want to see if I can find that post. Shit. Let me see if I can find that, because it was in Red Wing Convo. It was talking about, see here. Oh yeah, here it is. Rachel Schaldorf, whatever the hell her name is. Oh my God, I got off it.
Oh, there's the Facebook. Let me get back to Facebook. So you can see the name Rachel. Let's see. Was it this one? No. This one. Yep. Rachel Marshall Saltendorf. So that I was like, whoa. You know what I'm saying? I was like, how can it be? So that just shows that, you know, they watch. Because what she liked was, I said, wow, that's crazy. And I'm shocked that the police or city workers are allowing this and ain't saying anything. This is something that she liked. So I just, yeah, I thought it was crazy. I thought it was crazy. And I know I'll continue to think that it's crazy. Right, it's over by the Sunny School. So they didn't, I thought the parents lived, okay, so the boy that overdosed, I thought he lived inside of Maple Hill, the apartments. The boy that overdosed and died was in Maple Hills. Kind of seemed like I'm talking about a nursing home, but I'm not. I'm talking about an apartment complex. We'll see. We'll see. I ain't been able to share this shit or whatever, but you know, going back to Bobby Champion and them, it shocks me to read some of this, and I'm going to read it, and I think that's what I'm going to talk about tomorrow. Because, yeah, just to be seeing some of this shit, and it's like, how can we agree on something, but yet we don't agree on something? I will never understand that. How can we get along at one point as people, but then the things that go on in our communities that can make it better, that can make people, I shouldn't say make people, but you know, that if you see it, say something. If you see it, say something. Well, what happened to that? Because all I hear about, oh, snitches get stitches. Snitches get stitches. Snitches get stitches. It don't be about justice. It don't be about accountability. It don't be about truth. It don't be about transparency. Because every time that people bring up the truth, or they are transparent, they're told that they're lying. They're not telling the truth. They're doing this. They're doing that. And it's like, damn, what do you mean? You know what I'm saying? How can it be everything just be a lie? But then there's documentation, or there's so much other proof that it did happen, and people still don't believe it. They still don't believe it. And I will never understand that. I will never understand that. Never. So with that being said, man, I hope everybody has a great day. What different? No, you're good. There was a lot of overdoses, you know, to pack this up or whatever. There was a lot of overdoses in Red Wing, because I remember when a set of parents died. You know, first was the mother, and then went the father. And yet people we still don't care. You know, I remember when my daughter went to where a girl was raped. It was a party, and a girl overdosed. And there was so much other shit that happened, but the fact that, there was some kids that were telling the truth, and they were, they wanted to be known that, things that happened. And so that to make sure that everybody was safe, everybody was good.
And then there were some that they didn't want to get involved. But that did come out in Red Wing, and we did come to a solution. But there was a lot of things that we didn't get to a solution. It was more of even with Wigger days, that settlement and all the things that you said you did. Is that accountability? Is that transparency? Because more families have gone through it. The same thing with Shaquita Hurd. Was that justice? Was that accountability? Because you're still acting with them same patterns. So, man, with that being said, I got Peace of Mind by Don Tripp. I'm going to get up out of here. But I hope everybody has a safe and wonderful day. And I'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. Win or fail, freedom or jail, heaven or hell, wish me well. And I will talk to y'all later.
I've been up for weeks, I don't know why I ain't sleep. I guess cause I've been grinding, wish I could find some peace. I'm sick of all these hoes, I know they tired of me. Whenever I'm in need, they so out of reach. Wish that I could quiet this anxiety. Supposed to be my fam, but we got silent beef. I don't respect your money and I despise a thief. Survived all of this beef, I could've died in these streets.
Yeah, I second that, reckon that, weapons check, strapped like Hirachis to ensure that we collect the check. Make me slit your throat forever thinking we was neck and neck. Stop looking back cause everything look easier in retrospect. Ready, set, let's go make this chicken, all that beef can wait. Just in case I broke my pocket knife to guard my piece of cake. Trying to teach my son his alphabets but ain't no easy way. Cause I leave out the FBI, the ATF and DEA. Streets was in my DNA, it skipped a generation. That's the one thing I'm not sharing with my babies. Gracious, grateful, been through hell and back and didn't melt. You be rich if you kept all your 2 cents to yourself.
I've been up for weeks, I don't know why I ain't sleep. I guess cause I've been grinding, wish I could find some peace. I'm sick of all these hoes, I know they tired of me. Whenever I'm in need, they so out of reach.